What's up YouTube? Welcome to Koala Gardens. We're going to have a look at what happened here during the month of September. Watch for the bonus at the end of the video. I've got lots of koala activity for you and lots of other beautiful Australian wildlife. You know what? If we can't save the cutest animal in the world, what is going to happen? Well, not on my watch. Koala Gardens is doing all they can to help preserve koalas. Don't forget to get your order in for the 2022 calendar featuring your favourite Koala Gardens koalas. So much great stuff in there. I'm not going to spoil it with a full peek through, just a quick little look. Links in the description below. They're selling fast, but there's plenty left. Koala Gardens is a wildlife sanctuary on private land. Subscribing helps me bring koalas to you, and liking this video helps me bring them to the whole world. I'm lucky enough to live in the koala's backyard with a wild and free colony on the far north coast of New South Wales in Australia. Check out my Patreon options and come over and chat on my public Discord server. You'll find links for these and lots more in the description below. I'm Katrina and I'm passionate about saving koalas. As usual, we're going to move through the property in alphabetical order, starting with Ash, who is making his once a month visit. Really is very shy today and it took a bit for me to identify him. Always wonderful to be out there seeing lots of birds. That's a bar-shouldered dove. I love these birds. And this one, I've never seen one of these before. Listen to the noise. Just gorgeous. Now that is a Pacific buzzer. A wide variety of birds love using this tree. Even though this is a dead tree, it often has hosts of birds in it. And most of the birds you can see up there are called fig birds. The immatures have just the brown and white speckles on them, while the mature males have a greeny look to them and a large red patch around their eye. Quite striking. I actually had my regen team kill this tree now that the plantation trees around it have grown up, because the nectar in the flowers on this tree can set like glue and kill hives of our native stingless bees. So I wanted to remove it. This is a black-headed cuckoo shrike. Beautiful birds, but really hard to catch. They're very shy. This is another bird I hadn't seen before. It's a fantail cuckoo, and I'm taking this video through my kitchen window. I just suddenly looked up and went, look at that beautiful bird. These galahs are beautiful to look at, but it's a bit of a funny joke because in Australia, if somebody acts a bit of an idiot, we tell them they're a silly galah. This is a forest kingfisher. I also get the sacred kingfishers here, and of course I get the biggest kingfishers in the world, the laughing kookaburra. If we compare the two, this forest kingfisher is about 8 inches long and weighs around 40 grams, something like that. The kookaburra, however, is around 18 inches long but can weigh up to 450 grams. So at least twice as long, but 10 times the body weight. Wow. And of course, size doesn't really mean anything. Just look at these two willy wagtails telling these two magpies that they do not want them hunting in their area. They've got lots of spunk, those little ones, and whilst they didn't manage to tell the magpies off completely, the magpies did decide that, well, they would move out. Magpies have a glorious song. and they don't mind having a bit of a bath. I mean, really, that bird bath is for the smaller birds, but this Maggie doesn't care. He's going to have a good old splash about. This is a pair of rainbow bee eaters. The way to tell the male from the female is if you look carefully at their tails. That's the male on your right with the longer tail streamers. He just went flying off to catch some insect. Otherwise, their colours look just as vibrant as each other. This is another bird whose name starts with rainbow, but this time it's a rainbow lorikeet. And this rainbow lorikeet is one of quite a few that are feeding in this forest red gum. So they're feeding on the flowers, and of course this always helps to pollinate the trees. And now looking back at that same tree on a different day, and there's 3 scaly-breasted lorikeets that are having a good old grooming session up in the tree. I think they might have just been overeating mulberries. And I have to be very quiet trying to video through the long grass there to see that lovely bush turkey hen moving through down in Matilda's area 11. All that scratching up they do actually helps our natives regenerate. They are so elusive. Whoop, there it goes, through the fence. This was one of the last times I saw the juvenile white-headed dove, as Mum had left him and I guess he's worked life out. These little ones can be hard to see. They're so tiny and fast. It's a little red-backed fairy wren, a male in full breeding plumage. Think of the size difference between the kingfisher and the kookaburra. These little fellows weigh around 5 to 10 grams, but oh my, they are stunning. Same size, a cousin, the superb fairy wren. Now it's time for some koala action, and here's Bullet. He was seen on the property 14 out of 30 days this month, so almost exactly half the days. He was in a variety of trees. He moved all around the property, zigzagging in and out. Chasing girls, what do you reckon? And I just really love this little bit. The way he is draped into that tree and trying to get comfortable. Am I? Maybe, maybe not. Just so funny. There is definitely nothing quite like a little bit of Bullet in the early morning light. For those of us with a bit of a koala foot fetish, Bullet always knows how to deliver. What would a month be without the gorgeous Ellie? I actually didn't see as much of her this month. I'm not sure if Bullet's been hassling her, maybe another koala over the west side somewhere where she goes, but she is looking fantastic every time I have seen her, and that is the main thing. Ellie is one girl that loves being up as high as she can get. It may well mean that I often miss seeing her because she can also be really hard to find even when she's not up as high as she is sometimes. She can be right hidden in amongst dense foliage. She's in a beautiful tallow wood tree here today. Let's have a look as well at some of the flowers both in the garden and on the property. This one is called a cathedral begonia. These are the gum nuts on the pink bloodwood tree. They're significantly larger than the gum nuts that we get on the forest red gum. Of course, we're coming into spring, so the mango trees are coming into flower. I'll try and make sure I capture some of the process as they move through the fruit. The mulberry trees have been fruiting significantly. I've had to share them with lots of birds, which is fine with me because I get a little feed every day for some weeks and the birds get loads and loads of feed. I love mulberries. I have a couple of particularly nice orchids in the front yard. Just look at the colour of that. In fact, one year in this tree, a koala climbed into the tree and sat just above all of these, and it was her first time on the property, so she got named Orchid. This one is a close cousin. They grow with the same leaf shape and the same flower shape, but look at the difference in colour of the flowers. Just beautiful, and just masses of flowers every single spring. This orchid also gets masses of flowers, but you can see that each flower is tiny and a beautiful cream colour. These are the flowers on a tallow wood, so they're very tiny flowers, which means that it ends up with very tiny gum nuts, and the bark on the tallow wood is a very rough bark, totally different to that smooth grey bark on the forest red gum. Even going in and out of lockdown, of course, friends of the koala leafing crew are able to come, keeping socially distanced, and cut leaf to feed the koalas. You can tell things are warming up because the frogs are out at night when it rains. This is looking through my kitchen window to the frog on the outside. And look at that tiny butterfly. Some butterflies are big, some butterflies are only about a centimetre wingspan. Even though we call them grasshoppers, they will actually feed on eucalyptus leaves quite happily. While I do see monarch butterflies on the property all year round, at the moment, being spring, they are obviously breeding. This one, of course, is just sitting happily on a blade of grass. It's very hard for me to film butterflies when they're flitting about in the air chasing each other. The reason I have monarchs here is because I have milkweed here, which is the host plant for the monarch caterpillars. And these tiny little fellas are called tiger moths. This is one of the really important native grasses on the property. It's called kangaroo grass, and the seeds on this are a really important grain and make fabulous bread, I believe. And this gorgeous girl, I tell you, she tricked me. When I saw her in this tree this day, I was quite convinced that it was Ellie. I have seen Ellie in this area before. She looked about the same size as Ellie and she had big ears. So I thought, when this is all you can see of a koala, oh, it's Ellie. But in fact, I was wrong, and it took me several days of watching her to discover that in fact it was a new koala that we'd never seen before, and she was given the name Koala, which means permanent. And I thought, great, that means she's going to stick around. And guess what? After 8 days of being here and being named Koala, she took off again. Well, when I say she took off again, what I mean is she was only moving through, as this property is part of a koala corridor, and it's the dispersion time. So she's looking for a place to live. You never know, she might still decide that she doesn't find somewhere just as good as here and come back again. We hope so. I would love to see this gorgeous girl become part of the property. Some days koala spotting is fairly easy, while other days koala spotting is hard work. Not just actually seeing a koala that small at the top of a big tree, but then identifying. I must say, that little flash of red in the right ear always makes it easy for me to be quite certain I've identified Luna. Here Luna is sleeping in an Angophora tree. These are a secondary koala food tree, and it's a beautiful big tree that she's enjoying. This time she's riding up high in a forest red gum. So you can see that Luna is really doing well without Phoenix. She's moving around all the time in different trees. She loves feeding through the young trees in the plantation, but she is perfectly at home way up high in the mature trees where we expect and want our koalas to be. Luna has developed quite a liking for the swamp mahoganies. What I find is that she often sleeps and shelters in the trees at the top of Bloodwood Gully, and then in the late afternoon moves down into the plantation to have a good feed on the swamp mahoganies. She's also quite enjoying sheltering in some secondary food trees that grow along the outside edge of the kindy. This is becoming one of her favourite young swamp mahoganies. You can see the beautiful green colour to the younger branch growth on this tree. And she's watching me and saying, yeah, I think I'll just go up a little tiny bit higher and rest on this almost non-existent, tiny, thin thing that's barely even big enough to call a branch. And Matilda is ever the queen. That gorgeous round face, those thick arms, and the way she just flops and drapes herself into the trees makes her a total delight every time I see her. Some days Matilda is so easy to spot and see clearly, when other days she's nestled deeply behind the leaves. Just like every koala really, I suppose. It was wonderful that there was another new arrival on the property, and this one was a small girl around the size of Luna. In fact, the first day I saw her, I presumed it was Luna. Then I realised she wasn't quite as dark in the fur as Luna, and she had no ear tag in her ear, so it couldn't be Luna. So who was it? And as the day unfolded, I realised it was definitely a new koala, and what a beauty! Funnily enough, same sort of size and therefore age as Luna, Nina was also in the plantation area and the trees surrounding the outside of the kindy. So this meant that for the next week or so while Nina was here, she and Luna seemed to pretty much play almost musical trees. Literally some days, the day after Nina had been in a tree, Luna would be in a tree, and it would truly make a real job of my skills, making sure that I was carefully identifying which koala was which. When it comes to koala bottoms, big is definitely beautiful, and even though Nina is not a big girl, she has got one beautiful koala butt, and it's so white. Look at what a delight that girl is. There's always something really special about seeing new young koalas come through to the property and be confident, agile, up in the very tops of the trees. It is just everything that we want to see. Phoenix only spent one day on the property. She popped back in, and funnily enough, she was found in this big bloodwood, which was an absolute favourite shelter tree of her mum Racy. So Phoenix would definitely recognise this tree and feel quite safe being up in there. I was quite surprised to see this coastal carpet python snoozing away and peering out of a nesting box at me one day. Haven't seen it in there again. And one of the beautiful redneck wallabies. those erect ears, the posture. That wallaby is obviously very aware of me, and we're just watching each other, kind of like playing the game of, okay, who's going to move first? And I certainly wasn't going to move because I didn't want to frighten the wallaby. And after a minute, off he hopped. However, he didn't go very far and stopped to look back and check on me, making sure that I hadn't taken that as an invitation to chase. And of course I hadn't. I'd stood perfectly still and allowed him to move off. The colours on that animal are just gorgeous. I usually only see the wallabies on the property if I'm out early of a morning or late of an afternoon. So they tend to sleep during the day. It's not that they're nocturnal, but they tend to come out and feed mostly in the early mornings and the late afternoons, and they tend to just hide in places and sleep during the heat of the day. I decided to use Koala for our bonus photo for this month because she is just so beautiful, and I just love the position. She was watching me, decided to climb up the tree a bit, took a couple of steps and just stopped and looked back over her shoulder at me as if to say, is she watching me? Yeah, she is. I hope you like this as your bonus photo for this video. Guess what? You've done it. You have made it right through to the end of yet another video. We'll finish off with Bullet sleeping away in the wind, and I hope that you've enjoyed this roundup of what happened here in September. Would you please make sure you've hit the like button and take a moment to write in the comments below, Koalas of Spring. Make sure you have subscribed. Keep watching. There is so much more great video coming up this year. Lots and lots for you. Thanks for supporting Koala Gardens. Thanks for visiting Koala Gardens. Did you hit the like button? Now before you go, there's lots more great video to see, and make sure you've subscribed and hit that notification bell.